Dr. Pooplove here, and today this is going to be a little bit of a different video than usual, and so I apologize for that. Usually I do try to meticulously edit something for you, but I just know I don't really have a whole lot of time, so I kind of just thought better to maybe just get something out, because I do want to talk about all this really bad factions news that's happening. And it kind of just keeps piling on. I actually had a video that was working on this, but we just keep getting bad news after bad news. And so I kind of had to throw that out the window. Anyways, just wanted to get something out there to really just talk about it. So to catch you up to speed, if you've missed out, there's basically three main stories going on. There was a Kotaku article, and that mentioned that Naughty Dog was laying off contract workers, mostly in the QA department, and basically that Factions 2 was on ice. And this doesn't sound too good. I mean, we don't know all the details here. We don't know how long these contracts were for. We don't know exactly what that work was for and how long their contracts were actually cut short, but it certainly is just not a totally good look. I mean, Factions 2, when you say it's basically on ice, I also kind of think to myself, well, it was on ice about 4 months ago when we first heard this news, so this is maybe just an indication that things haven't really changed, and I don't know if that's necessarily such a huge doomsday scenario, but we got more news. So we also found out that the monetization designer, someone who's been pretty critical to making Factions, I mean, really a role that seems very critical to being able to make Factions and live service actually workable. That person has left the company. We don't know why, but I just remember, this role was open forever, and it seemed like a big part of Naughty Dog's strategy in really trying to right maybe some of the wrongs of their monetization models in the past, like how they had pay-to-win guns. I mean, this was the guy who supposedly came up with Fortnite's Battle Pass. So it's definitely a bit concerning to see that he's no longer helping or working on the studio on this. He's no longer at Naughty Dog, so he's no longer working on the game. Despite these two stories, I still was not really super doom and gloom on the state of Factions because, these kind of things, the industry wide, they're losing a lot of people. And, you also, we just don't have enough information. But we also got some more bad news, and I'm still trying to process how to take this, but there's this leaker, Viewer Anon, who has been cited by many people in the past. He's notable in the movie space, but he has chimed in the gaming space at times, and mostly just for Naughty Dog games and The Last of Us Part 3. Whenever he's talked in the past about The Last of Us Part 3, there's been a lot of news and articles, and people seem to have taken this seriously. I mean, it's pretty obvious, I think, that Last of Us Part 3 is happening anyways, but he has been kind of elevated as someone that people take seriously. And so anyways, on Twitter, there was somebody who was basically saying people need to accept that Factions 2 is canceled, and he replied and said, yeah, it's dead, basically. So, and this is, how do I take all this news? Really, it's, honestly, it's a lot of bad news. Now, certainly I can try to poke some holes in some stuff here. Like, Kotaku does have a bad reputation for trying to get outrage, engagement, and clicks. And so, maybe they are using choice wording to really make things seem worse than it is. It's never good, though, to see contract workers being let go, but we don't know if this is all their QA staff or it's just a reaction to the economics. A lot of video game companies are laying people off now. Not that, it's horrible, but it just is affecting Naughty Dog as well. I could say that, maybe the monetization designer had a difference of opinion with how Bungie and Sony, when Bungie did their assessment of Factions 2, they may have just not liked the way that monetization was designed in the game, which does seem to kind of align with what we've heard. They don't like they weren't happy with the lack of ability to keep players engaged in the game. And so that kind of ties in with monetization, and that, the longer you play the game, the more open your wallets are going to be. I could also, poke holes further. Neil Druckmann has said in the past, especially around the time that Viewer Anon specifically was leaking The Last of Us 3 info, he has said not to trust the leakers and that they don't know everything. So this is all true. And so I don't, I can also point to things like, Paul Bashai came into my live stream literally last week and said they're still working on it. And then you have like posts from Naughty Dog themselves about a Factions cosplay guide and that job posting that still used the concept art. So bottom line is there's a ton of bad news, and there is some good news that has contradicted it, or new things that have seemed to contradict the worst possible outcome. But the bottom line is really like, I think it's time for Naughty Dog to say something, because there's too much, especially after this week, there's too much bad news. And, even if Factions is canceled, I mean, I'll be devastated, but just say it. Get it over with, Maybe there are still plans with it. Maybe it's being rescoped to come to The Last of Us Part 2 remaster. That did just kind of come out. That came out today. There was a there was a LinkedIn post where a Naughty Dog employee said that they're working on The Last of Us Part 2 remastered, so maybe that's a possibility. Maybe it's rescoped and put into The Last of Us Part 3. We just don't know. We're very much on the outside here, and what I really don't like is that we're hearing news, and most of the bad news is all coming from third parties. And I really just think it's time that Naughty Dog says something and either reassures their fans if perhaps there is some good news out of this, or just, let us know. Because the reality is, I don't want to sit here and, I guess, say anything to leave any sort of expectations. At this point, I'm not sure what to expect. I need Naughty Dog to step in and really tell us what are the expectations that we should have. So we'll see. I just wanted to get something out there and not leave y'all totally hanging. I got to be honest, I kind of keep going back and forth on how to take this news. I'm not sure. Sometimes I have hope. Other times I'm like, I think it's over. I'm really just back and forth at this point. That's why I really just think Naughty Dog needs to step in. They need to say something, and I don't want to really jump to any sort of conclusion at this point. I'll keep trying to follow the news, and, it'll be a while really before I'll be able to get any other sort of video out there, and that's kind of why I just really wanted to get something out today. Obviously, it's really hard seeing all this bad stuff popping up, and I don't know. I just, it's sad to see. I hope somehow things turn around, but again, no real expectations. And if you want to see a video that, really dives into a little bit more broadly what's going on with Naughty Dog right now, you should check this video out. But otherwise, I'll talk to you later, Pooper Troopers.